I can never remember if it's normal William or Williamson. No, Williamson. Yeah. Okay. And believe it or not, I think it's like $10. And it's actually really strong. It's a pastry knife. Okay. So if you don't have a pastry knife, what I would do, I would take butter. And the butter should be kind of cool. And this butter is a little bit, it's been sitting here. It's a little room temperature. But I would take it, I would cut it. Yeah, I should have got some butter from the fridge. That's okay. Then cut into the small pieces like this. And then what I would do, I would just kind of coat these with flour. Okay, so they kind of stay separate. And if I didn't have the pastry knife, I would just take this, I would take this butter and I would just kind of, in my fingers, I would kind of flake it. See how they just kind of little flakes in there? I would just flake it. So I'd have a handful of these and just kind of flake it and flake it. And you just, every now and then, as you flake it, you recoat the exposed butter with the flour. And you keep working it until you get different sized lumps. So I would work, what we do here, we usually make a flaky style pie dough for our two crusted pies. And I usually do like a pea-sized lump, which is, they call short flake. Now, if you have a pastry knife, you can just take this butter here. You can just take this pastry knife and you can just start cutting this butter into little pieces like this here. So you see it's already getting smaller. See, Jason, it doesn't fly out as much as you have a Jonathan, sorry. It doesn't fly out when you use a bigger dish pan. Okay, every now and then, make sure it's coated. The exposed butter is coated with the flour. And then you just keep going. So if I was doing this, it would take me about maybe 8 to 10 minutes to do all this. Okay, you see that? How long did that take? Was it even a couple minutes? Okay, so what size would you say these lumps are? They're not pea size, huh? Okay. So these are kind of like shelled walnuts. Like if you shell the walnut, they're about that size, okay? So there's really two types of pie dough. There's flaky pie dough and there's mealy pie dough, okay? So we usually make, like I said, we usually do the, that would make a long flake, and if you get this down to pea size, then that would be a short flake. So flaky pie dough implies flakiness, right? And you would use a flaky pie dough usually for like two crusted pies, or you can do like for your cream pies or lemon meringue pies, those kinds of things. A short flake pie dough would be perfect for that. Long flake pie dough is flakier, has a nice flakier texture to it, but it's great only for a top crust. And if you use it on a bottom crust, it absorbs too much moisture and it gets soggy really easy. So here we've got smaller size lumps. Okay, this is going to be more your short flake. Now, if you keep going, you keep going, you're gonna get something that looks more like this here. See, they're even smaller. It could be even a little smaller than that. And if you get it down to that point, that's gonna be your mealy pie crust. Mealy pie crust, anybody know what you'd use a mealy pie crust for?
Uncrusted pies?
Uncrusted pies? Well, actually what happens is as you work the shortening in more and more, it's starting to waterproof the flour. It's coating more and more of the flour. So the further down you incorporate the fat into the flour, it becomes more water resistant. Okay, is that a clue to what you might use it for?
Meat-based dishes?
So pies that have a very wet or moist filling.
Fruit pie?
Like what?
Fruit pie?
Actually, not necessarily a fruit pie, but what?
Blueberry pie, apricot pie.
No, like a custard pie or pumpkin pie. You ever see the difference between like a pumpkin pie? You made pumpkin pie, right? Okay. How is that filling different from like the blueberry filling or the apple filling?
Oh, that thing was just like,
It was like water.
Yeah.
It was like water. And as opposed to like this apple pie filling here that we made, does that look real watery? That looks watery? Oh, come on. Can you do that with pumpkin pie filling? No, it would just all drip out. Okay. All right. So by incorporating the fat more into the flour, it becomes more waterproof. So when you have a really wet filling, like a custard pie, quiche, pumpkin pie, those are the ideal uses for a mealy pie crust. All right. So a short dough pie dough is good for what? Top crust and bottom crust, right? Long flake is only good for top crust, and mealy pie dough is good for
custard.
But yeah, most of those custard pies, are they going to have a top crust?
No.
No, they're not. They're usually open face, right? Okay, so that's the difference between the flaky and the mealy. All right, so over here we have our kind of short flake we're shooting for, and the last component is the water. Okay, so we used to buy a commercial pastry flour, and when we had the commercial pastry flour, the 3-2-1 worked perfect. I find now when we do the 3-2-1 with our formulated flour, I find we have to add a little bit more liquid. Now, is the temperature of the liquid important when you're adding it?
Yes.
Really? Why?
It'll melt the butter.
What's that?
It'll melt the butter.
Yeah, if the liquid is too warm, it's going to melt the fat, especially if you're using butter. And then if it melts the butter, what's going to happen to your crust?
Break.
It's not going to be what?